Patricia Talks.
Welcome to Patricia Talks, the show where you get to hear stories from everyday people about their extraordinary lives, from authors to sports personalities, TV personalities, and entrepreneurs. Welcome to Patricia Talks. My guest today is singer-songwriter, oh my goodness, it's Sylvia Tella. I'm super excited to welcome her to today's show of Patricia Talks. Sylvia Tella, wow.
Wow, you are stunning. I love that entrance. That was good. That made me sound so famous.
And well deserving. And I think that is because you are famous.
Well, I say I'm popular. Famous means you've got loads of money.
Okay, so you're popular. But anyway, for me, you're famous and you're popular. And it's my pleasure to have you on the show today.
It's an honour to be here, man. I love your show anyway. And the last time I saw one of your episodes was with Mr. Mitchell. That was so cool. You know, he's an interesting man, but you made the whole journey of talking to an elder very, very interesting.
And you have some connections to the same individual, so we might find out a bit about that later. Mm-hmm. But what I'd like you to do, I'd really like you to tell me a bit more about yourself. Who is Sylvia Tella?
Well, she's a Northerner, born and bred. She is also African through and through. My real name is Silifatu Mornii Wehabie Tella, otherwise known as Sylvia Tella.
I love that.
Yeah, my father's Nigerian. He was an Oba, which is a king. Mm. And so there is a princess title before that, but, you know, this is England.
Wow, so it's Princess Sylvia Tella. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Who named you? Was it your dad that named you?
My father, when he first came over, because it has a meaning. Like Silifatu, right, Mornii Wehabie Tella, it means that giver. That's the first title of it. And then the second part is I have a partner. And then, of course, Wehabie Tella is our title name for the House of Ilaro, which is in Ogun State. Yeah. Nice.
So you became Sylvia Tella.
Sylvia Tella is because I was fed up with everyone saying my name wrong. Mm. And it doesn't. And then also, when we were young kids, people, they never understood the culture of Africa. They would say, I know your father, he comes from Africa, where is she?
So they didn't get it. No. So you found it difficult. People couldn't pronounce your name correctly. People didn't have a real understanding of the meaning. Yeah. You were named by your father, so that's quite special. You say you're Nigerian through and through. So you kind of want people to say your name properly, right?
I do. So I actually use my name, right? I'm not, my passports, everything is in Silifatu Mornii Wehabie Tella. Right, but the point is that in the music industry, usually you have a different persona name, you know. Like,
sure.
So Sylvia Tella, how that really got stuck was through Frank Farian from Boney M, because I was singing as Sylvia Tella because I used to say to people, "Oh, just call me Sylvia." I mean, the name's always been Tella, right? And when I met Boney M, Frank Farian said when he asked me my name, he goes, "That is a good stage name, Sylvia Tella." So that's really, and I was 15 at that time, and that stuck with me.
That's great. We're going to talk about Boney M and 15 and how that all happened. But when did you first become aware of your interest and, in fact, your musical talent?
Well, that is another story. When I was 7, my father, right, he used to have lots of African brothers, you know, and from the same region in Nigeria or the same area of Ilaro or Ogun State, you called them uncle.
Sure.
Right? So my uncle Tommy, who wasn't a blood uncle, but he was wonderful. He was a musician. He used to teach a lot of people, and funny enough, I found out even people I worked with in education that had been taught from my uncle Tommy back in those days. But long story
was Uncle Tommy here or was he in Nigeria?
No, he was in England.
Okay.
And him and my dad and a couple of other African brothers, they formed a band. And they used to do, it was for BBC actually, and it was called The Witch Doctor. It was all about cultural music, the drums and everything, but they also used to perform at universities and colleges in Manchester. And I used to love hearing them rehearse. And it was mainly African music. And I remember this one day I was just singing the songs with them, and my Uncle Thomas said, she has something. And my father was always against that, right? Because he said that the music industry wasn't an industry, he wanted me to be educated and rah. Anyway, this day they were playing at Manchester University, right? And I was excited because my father said I could come, but really like a mascot,
Sure.
right? But I didn't care. I just wanted to experience that live, and I was singing a couple of African songs like "Tabatio Kelo Sing," you know, and them kind of. It was just like.
I like that. I like that.
And the crowd, the students at Manchester University. I was 7. I'm 60, so it was a long time ago. But the thing that really got me was, I know that's when the seed was planted, because to hear all those audiences shouting and clapping, and I knew it was for me, but I didn't realise it was because I was like a mascot, you know,
Sure.
cute little girl singing songs. But to me, it was like I was a star.
Absolutely. So 7 years old,
Yeah.
you've gone to Manchester University with your dad
Yeah.
and your fabulous Uncle Tommy,
Yeah.
and he recognises that you have something.
Yeah.
So you're saying this is kind of where the seed started. You had a real sense of what it felt like to receive, the way in which the audience were responding to the music.
Yeah, that's where the seed planted for me that this is a job I want to do. But if I'm honest, really, from I was young, my father used to have shebeens, right? And we lived in like one of those old Victorian houses, right? I remember when we were younger. And downstairs was a cafe. Underneath was a shebeen. My dad owned the whole of it, and we lived
Wow.
upstairs, right? This is before he built the house in Robin Hood Street. Anyway, when we were there, I remember that in the night time, early hours in the morning, I used to sneak down the stairs. So I'd sit there and I'd hear all the blue
Wow.
beat, ska. I mean, I was in love with people like Slim Smith and people, you know, I didn't even know Bob Marley did backing vocals because I'd heard him, but I didn't know that was Bob Marley because those were back in the day.
Sure.
Yeah, it was great, man. That was the beginning for me of the music, reggae music, my first love. And I loved all kinds of music because my dad played classical, my mum played Jim Reeves and Elvis Presley. So,
Wow.
you know.
So do you come from a family? I know your dad is musical. What about your mum? What was mum like?
Actually, funny enough, she used to play the bugle in the Sally Army, whatever it was, what they had when they were young.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and she loved reggae music, loved it. I remember buying her a Dionne Warwick album because I knew she liked Dionne Warwick because she used to have all volume 1 and 2 and thing. And she said to me when I gave it her for her birthday, "What, Dionne Warwick's doing reggae?" I was like, "No, but isn't she your favourite singer?" She goes, "But you know I love reggae music." I was like, "Okay."
Oh.
I felt really like I've got her the worst present ever.
But then did she end up liking it, do you think?
I don't know, I've never heard her play it. But
Okay,
what I'm
okay.
showing you is...
That might be the answer.
Yeah.
That might be the answer.
But she loved reggae music, yeah. And my dad, in the cafeteria, used to have a jukebox. Remember the old
Yeah,
jukebox?
yeah.
And it had reggae music on. Yeah, and then... So I've always been surrounded by... If it's not African music, because my father's Nigerian, so I listened to, you know, Sonny Ade. There were so many great artists from back in those days, you know. And so I grew up kind of with I would say world music, because there was so many different influences from Latin to African to pop. I mean, I even sang a lot of pop with different bands, you know. But the reggae and the beginning of reggae, which was to me at that time blue beat, ska, rocksteady, and then as we went into roots and lovers rock and, you know, all of that beautiful music up to where we are now with all these influences of ragga and,
Sure.
you know.
So, Sylvia, actually, very early on, by the age of 14, you actually had your own band.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Salakunda. Local boys around from Manchester, Moss Side and New. And I remember us playing at the Mayflower, because we used to just play pubs and clubs, and then you'd hear all the people who were drinking, "Oh, she's got a lovely voice." They're half-cocked. But the thought of somebody appreciating you was like another buzz.
So was it you that formed it? Did you initiate the band?
Yeah. It was because it was just guys that could play a little bit, and then we all just got to. I remember we played in youth centres in our school church hall. I remember everybody from school throwing tomatoes. I mean, you know, you have to start from somewhere.
Sure. So you were singing. Who was made up the rest of the band? Who else can you remember that was part of that?
God, you're talking. Yeah, let me think now. Because I was 12 when I formed that band, actually. Right? And the next band that you're talking about when I was 14 was Romantics. No, not the Romantics. They were called the Stimulators, but they went on to be called Harlem Spirit. And they were already an established band doing cabaret. So I kind of went through a journey like this, right? You form your little band, you're playing in the little church halls and everything, and you're playing in pubs. Then you get a chance to play at the Mayflower, which is like one of those, you know, old-time theatres, right? And your father comes and with your uncle, and they watch.
Was it Uncle Tom?
No, this was this was another uncle from Liverpool. He was an uncle, right? I loved him. He was really nice. Anyway, he came with my dad and their missus, and they watched the show. And my dad said, "Ooh," and he gave us equipment because he used to have a second-hand shop. So we got some equipment, you know, guitar, speaker, amps. But it was great because that was like a big thing then, and we started doing our own little gigs. And how I started to work with other bands, because my neighbourhood, right, friends and my stepsister and them, they would like pushing me and saying, you should sing in the competition. There was a competition going on, right, at the local, it used to be called the Russell Club, but they turned it into the PSV Club for the bus drivers, right, but before that it was called the Russell Club. And it was where all the artists that came, you know, from Jamaica or England would come and perform. So it was like...
Tell us some of those artists. Can you remember who was there?
I remember watching Rico, saxophone player. I remember watching... I sneaked in to see these because I was underage, right? What was that group? Oh, they were from America. I watched a lot of reggae artists, you know, like Pete Honeyget. A lot of them early days, back in the day. And they wasn't as well known as they are now. They were like support. It was like me when I supported Beres Hammond in Birmingham, right? Who would have thought that people who were pulling my arms, right, were a band that I'd end up being the first woman to work for, which was Steel Pulse.
Amazing.
So, you know, all of these are levels of your career, and they're judged by how well you're doing within the opportunities you get. So the opportunity I got that day was to perform in this talent competition, right? And I remember singing, I think it was a Pat Kelly tune. It's been a long, lonely track.
Fabulous.
Fantastic song. And I learned that song from listening to
the music in the cellar.
Yeah, right. And I'd practice with my hairbrush in front of the mirror, and my dolls, they were my audience. So I was already, as far as I was concerned, kind of geared up that the people on the seats are my dolls. Right, if you get where.
Sure, they were going to be your audience. You'd been practicing at home with your hairbrush. So many of us can tell that story. The hairbrush, the cardigan over the hair,
right,
and all that kind of stuff. But and your dolls were the
audience.
Do it,
yeah. And then to perform on stage with my dad and all that, that's what I'm telling you. That's where the seed was planted, because I'd been doing that at home from a kid with the airbrush. Now here I am, 14, 12, no, it was 12, right, playing at the Mayflower. Then 13, 14, we're doing gigs around the area. I'd go for this competition, right, and this was to work with this band called, at the time, Stimulators, and they were doing the cabarets. And the cabarets is a different thing, because I got to work on the same stage as Gary Glitter, should have said the name too quick. Who else? Bay City Rollers, who used to wear the trousers.
And the socks and the scarf.
Loved it, right? So, yeah, I got to work on the same stage as these people, even though the people were eating their dinner, because it's cabaret, right? But
can I ask you, how did this work back then? Because I think it would be a different scenario now that a 12, 13, 14-year-old would be in an adult club. How was it different back then?
Let me tell you, right? This is how different it was. Do you remember there used to be a comedian called... everyone used to think he was racist because he'd always tell the black jokes. Bernard Manning.
Oh, yeah.
He had a club called the Embassy. Well, I did not know that he was a good friend to my uncle, who's a white man, my mother's brother. And they went to school together in Arpere, you know. And my uncle had said, oh, our Sil sings, you know, my niece, blah, 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 blah. And he said, and that time I was doing pub circuits and clubs. Yeah, she's always doing little pubs. And so he goes, oh, you should bring her in. Right?
So this was Bernard Manning saying that?
But no, yeah, to my uncle, right? And how it worked back then, you could be in a pub with your parents, you'd be outside eating your crisp and drinking your Coke, and your parents would be knocking them back inside. And that's how it was back them days, right?
So that's how you would then get in to see these cabarets, to have an idea of what was
Yeah,
happening.
because you're there with your family. It's a family thing, right? But you're not actually there. You're outside in the summer's day. But these cabaret things that I was actually performing at them. I shouldn't have been. You know, I was sneaking out most of the times to do these gigs. Yeah, I remember. Anyway, that's another story. But this particular moment, right, where I was in the cabaret, that was a big thing because it's like, you know, all the Mecca circuits, right? They were big theatres where big rich people went to enjoy their dinner and take their wives and husbands out, and that's how it was. And you were the artist, right? Today, you'd need chaperoning with your parents because it's not a playground, right? Might be for some of the people that treat it like that, but for the young people, you need chaperoning. I was lucky, I think, one, because I was streetwise, and two, because I was blacklisted for saying what I thought and doing what I did. But that's how it was in the way.
Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I'm the eldest of the siblings that are born in the UK, and then I'm the middle child of the siblings that are born in Africa. When I say the middle child, I'm smack between the UK kids and the African kids.
And so were you the only one out of the children that was listening at the cellar, going to the cabarets? What were the other children in your family
Well, they're
doing?
younger. I was the eldest.
Ah, okay.
Right? And they're younger, and they're all boys. And they were always doing other things, getting themselves into trouble. You know what I mean? My dad had a garage. They were always in that garage until they did something and the car set alight.
And that was the end of that.
That was the end of that episode,
so
anyway.
they were setting cars on fire, and you were entertaining in the big Mecca clubs. Bernard Manning wanted to see you. By the time you were 15, something quite amazing happened.
Yeah. I got blacklisted in Manchester through an experience. I'd done Opportunity Knots and Nationwide and Huey Green and another guy from this record company. They wanted to speak to me in the band. A lot of things had happened, you know, over the last, in that year. I'd experienced everything, you know, learning to smoke and, you know, like you do, the teenage thing. So I was like amazed, right, after this experience. And the reason why I'm not going to tell you all the details because people are dead.
That's fine.
Right? But that experience was like me realising that this industry is not good. And there was a litre of wine on the table, and I remember putting it onto Huey Green's head. And I never worked in the UK. All those Mecca jobs, all those, I didn't get them, right? So we ended up in London at a club called Gulliver's. Right?
Oh, yeah.
We'd been doing a few London gigs, and man, we weren't getting paid. You know, the money was just about paying the petrol, and we were teething apples off people's apple trees. You know, we were just like, we were young, right? And at that time, we all looked the same. We all looked like, we all had afros. We looked like the Jackson 5, but there was a female and all guys. And these guys were all brothers, and their father was a Jamaican man, and he was our manager. And that was another rip-off. So we went through different experiences, which is the industry. Right, and as you get older, you understand what the industry is about. But as you become wiser in yourself, you know, as I call it now, seasoned, right? I can see where the pit holes were, and if it was different, how it could have been different. But I was fortunate, and I was streetwise, like I said. So a lot of the things that could have or should have didn't
happen.
You know?
So you had, I guess, some experiences that weren't so great. Some learning experiences for you, some lived experiences that have been like big news. Yeah. But also, alongside that, you got a break to be backing singer for Boney M.
Yeah, and that's how it happened. I'm now banned from doing music in UK, so I'm forced to come to London. A gig comes to us, right, to be the artist at this amazing club called the Gulliver's Club. Now, we knew the Gulliver's Club is where all the artists go who do Top of the Pops. So that night that we were performing, I mean, I was going through another experience as a young woman, but I was also realised that the show must go on. So here am I singing, tears are running down my face, but I'm having to sing in a ballad, right? And at that time, I didn't even know half of the artists that were there who were doing Top of the Pops. And they come there before the pre-recording of whatever. Anyway, 2-2s, I see Smokey Robinson. And I'm like, oh my God, Smokey Robinson. Then I see Hot Chocolate. Oh my God, Hot Chocolate. I see this other group, all black. And I think, who are they? Find out they're called Boney M. Never heard of them before. Same with this other group called, I think they were called Brotherhood of Man.
Oh yeah, okay. Didn't they win Eurovision Song Contest or something?
Well, they were very upset that I never recognised them. They were the most upset, and I don't understand why, because I didn't know who they were. I wasn't really that type of person that listened to pop music. You know, I remember running outside record shops on Moss Side with all the DJ men, waiting for the white labels at 15 in a box just to try and get the latest reggae tune. That was my thing, right? So I didn't know who these people were. The ones I did know, I know them, right? So anyway, this white man come up to me, Frank Farian, speaking German, didn't understand him, thought he was just another white man trying to sing, fobbed him off. The rest of the musicians, a Brazilian man, right? His name was, oh my God, how can I forget him? He was the percussion for Boney M, right? And he was a Brazilian guy. Anyway, I couldn't understand what he was talking about, so I fobbed him off. Then the next two guys that came was Livingston Wright and Lascelles James, who called me Feisty, because I thought they were speaking, you know, yeah, why is, you know, he's this, that, and the other, and you know, and I'm going, look, I'm not interested, mate.
Was it because you didn't know who they were? So
No.
I guess if Smokey Robinson had come to you, it'd have been a different response, right?
Most probably because, right, or maybe not, it depends how he approached me. Because in the business of music, you know when people are trying it on, and then when you are in the business, you just assume, well, he's going to want something from me. Nah. You know, it's that kind of thing. Back in the day, if you're not chaperone, I never had a manager, I never had a record company. I still don't have any of those things. I've done it myself by the grace of God and with whoever he's put in my life for whatever reason, right? But back then, you are in awe of all what you see. You want to be a superstar, right? That's in your head. You're mixing with these greats that you've seen on telly, that you've heard on records, you know? But the approach of people, you still have to be wary of.
Absolutely.
Right?
But you were approached by Lascelles James.
Yeah.
Amazing saxophonist.
Fantastic person. He's actually
And
the
tell us what happened
godfather
next.
of my children, the godfather. He was amazing because he turned to me and said, he's a feisty girl. And I laughed. And then we got talking and he started to explain who this man was, right? So he finally got my telephone number to give to Frank Farian, who was very interested in me because he thought I sang amazing, and he didn't know I was young. I had these tall 6-foot boots that came up to here. I mean,
And you were just 15.
Yeah, just 15. The youngest member of Boney M. And then came Jessie. But anyway, I was in hospital after that. Yeah, he gave us some money, and it was, to me, I thought it was Monopoly, right? So I gave it him back. And I said, oh, you can't spend that here, right? So
Was it German currency?
Yeah. And it was hundreds of Deutschmarks, but I didn't even know. Because I remember Lascelles telling me later on when we talk about this, he said, I can't believe you turned down like £300-400. I was like, what? Because I didn't know what,
Sure,
right?
at 15 you
And then he gave me English money, which still was a lot of money, 40 quid. I hadn't seen that money from a gig. You know, we were looking for share to five up, but then we're talking about the 70s,
Sure.
right? So anyway, 2-2s. I remember this day he gave us, that night, he gave me £40. And me and the guys are going, hey, we can get some food on the way in those, the motorway cafes. We were just as common as milk.
And spent your first... So was that the first time you'd been paid?
No, it was the first time we've
money?
ever seen any money. We were always
Yeah.
gigging, getting paid, but the manager took that, which was their father. We were being, as young people, it was about the music. You just wanted to sing. You didn't even know nothing about the business. And you didn't care. You just wanted to know that, oh, you got a gig. Oh, we're going to be on TV. Oh, we're going to do it. That's how it was.
But you didn't just sing there, did you? Because you're a songwriter as well, aren't you?
Yeah, but I didn't even know I was a songwriter. I just write my songs until years later when people come and say, oh, I love that song, you know, it touched my heart, or this one did. And you think,
Where'd you get your inspiration from?
people, myself. Although I have to say other people, because I know whenever I do radio interviews, the DJs will go, you know, you've had a few broken hearts. And I have to laugh because I say, it's not every song is about me, you know.
It's about someone else.
Yeah.
You sound like somebody who has great energy. I've seen you perform. I've said your music is you. We've recently been going through lockdown. What has that been like for you?
Actually, it's been a great awakening. And I have to say that I'm well awake because I realised that we had time now to look at ourselves and what our purpose in life is, what our goals are, and even respect and realise what we have. I mean, I woke up one day and I could see the blue sky and the clouds. I don't even remember looking at the clouds since I was a kid because I couldn't see it. It was always some kind of weird stuff going on in the air. And the same with the smell in the air and just the zest for life, the energy, having the time to just look into myself, having the time to think. Because I realised that as a world, we've been so on this cogwheel, like mice in this little wheel just going round and round and round and not getting the time to just stop and say, wait a minute, what's really going on in my life? Where can I make improvements? What am I doing that's not working? We don't even have a time to evaluate who we are and our families. And then all of a sudden this lockdown came and families, right, we're getting closer. And people were understanding how much their partners do when they're not around, or how much the husband contributes. Now the financial is being looked at, and the children, you know, it became more, people valued themselves and others a bit more. And then there's the reverse. People realise, I don't even know what I'm doing with you. You know, I mean...
Some separation.
Yeah, but
some
it's about
gelling
facing
together.
truth, facing the awakening of your truth, because at the end of the day it's an individual thing, right? Collectively, yes, we have to move, but individually we have to find within ourselves what part we're playing within this movement of humanity, because we're all affected by this. Nobody can say we wasn't affected, even if you didn't have a coronavirus, and even if you don't believe it's all this, that and the other, because we all have our opinions, right? But the truth, what is the truth? If you ask all the questions, you can see truth.
And that's a whole show in itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you've had some time during lockdown. You used it quite wisely. You were very reflective. You worked on some relationships. You've already spoken quite fondly of LaSalle James.
Yeah.
And he introduced you
To Boney M, to
also
Lloyd Charmers.
Let's talk about that time.
Well, Lloyd Charmers, right, he was a very well-known producer. He's late Lloyd Charmers, and I mean, he should have got the awards and the acclaim when he was on this earth, you know, but that's how it goes. But I would give him great honour for all the contribution he did, not just in my life, but to the industry itself, because he produced people like Marcia Griffiths, Dennis Brown, I mean, you name it. And he were part of the Charmers, which was a great band, and he had great songs himself as Lloyd Charmers, you know. And to hear LaSalle say to me, yeah, I'm working with Lloyd Charmers, because he did a lot of productions as well with Lloyd, and he said to me, he thinks you've got an amazing voice, he'd like to do an album. And I said, an album? You know, I could think about a single, right? But who's going to
So would that have been your first album then?
The very first, my debut, and which was Spell. And what was so great, this guy believed in me enough to say, right, you've got 2 days to learn these songs, and then we're in the studio, because that's how things run them days, right? And it was analog, so you had to know your craft. So I learned these songs, and that's another thing. People think I wrote Spell. I did not write Spell, for the record, people. It was wrote by the Blue Notes, and I think it was the Moments, because I actually was given from Charmers 2 sets of songs, some from the Blue Notes, some from the Moments, and these particular songs were amazing because they, you know, big productions, and they're like the Motown, the soul, the rare groove, and I was like into that too. So I was
That's quite an adult song. So you were quite young still, right?
Yeah, I was what?
Did you have a
18?
sense? You were 18. At 18, do you have a sense of kind of someone's written a song and you're now singing it? Do you have a sense of the meaning of the song and the lyrics and a real understanding at such a young age?
Well, I did, because I was engaged to Bernie them times anyway, and I was already a woman, as it were. Although I didn't have any kids yet, but I had experienced miscarriage. I was a woman. But I don't think that's what the interpretation of a song, them type of songs, you have to have lived. You have to have gone through, like the elders, when they talk about the memories of being young, right? I could talk about that now because I've gone through it, and I could sing that song now because that's a memory of, you know.
And so when you sing it now, does it feel different from when you sang it at 18?
No, the sound is different because my voice is more matured, and I had a little baby voice then. But the words and the meaning still, well, they mean more now because I'm a woman. As a woman, I'm a grandmother, I'm a mother, I'm an auntie, all of that. But then I was just a young lady, right? I had nothing of that says, oh, you're a woman, except, oh, I've got a boyfriend, I'm engaged, right? But where that song, it's like a song I did it was a cover version I did with I forget what they're called, a young band from Harlesden back in the day.
The Rough Cut Band?
No. Stimulated, no. Oh my God, this is terrible. I should read my own bio. It was so long time ago.
Log on to your page.
Yeah, it was a long time. But the reason I mention it, I did a song called Candy Statton's tune. Telling you, man, I'm having that moment. It must be an Alzheimer's thing. But anyway,
it will come back.
It's terrible though, because I was looking through all my stuff and I was like, oh, God, I forgot about that. Oh, I forgot about that. But it's so long ago. I've been in it now 47 years, making money, making music as me. So it's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, so you are a mother, a grandmother now. You've been married a couple of times.
I have.
How do you balance lifestyle as a musician and a wife and mother? What happens?
It's a miracle. You have to forfeit one or the other. Like with Bernie and my kids, right? I used to take gigs 3 weeks. If it was longer than that, I remember with Blow Monkeys, we got these big tours. No, I can only do 3 weeks because I have a family, right? And in Boney M days, I never had children, so I could go and I was with the family, my partner, that was his family, so it was different, right? When you have children, and especially if you're independent on your own with children, it's harder. But I was lucky, I had the family, I had au pair, and my kids are born in it, so it's like nothing new. But back in the days, it was hard for them too. I'd put them in sleeping bags, take them to the studio. They'd be sleeping in sleeping bags while I'm recording. I mean, I was a terrible mother.
Do you think your children would say that?
No, my children make me feel really, really good. As they say, listen, Mum, you don't understand. We didn't even realise how hard you did work, you know. And they make me feel good because they are really incredible people, whoever, you know, what they've grown to be. Like Sasha now, she has her own clinic, and BJ's got his own, he's like an entrepreneur. He's got businesses, you know. Stacey, she still works for Liz as personal PR and secretary. So they've all evolved. They've got their homes, they've got their families, their children. So for me, it's like they're the best part of me that are doing better than me, as it were, well. Right? And it's through even my son why I'm kind of getting involved and still, as he would say, relevant, right? Because one of the old tunes that I wrote on my Tell It Like It Is, which was Move With the Times, he said to me one day, you know, you need to listen to Sylvia Tella and do what she said. And I said, he's talking to me, right? And I'm who he's talking to. And I'm like, you are? And he goes, yeah, move with the times. And that song, which I wrote, and what's his name? Freddie McGregor's playing drums on that, so I always say that.
Nice.
I was proud to say that. And I recorded it in New York at Living Room Records with Bailey and Sid Mills. Yeah, Barrington Bailey and Sidney Mills from Steel Pulse. So we put that together. And the greatest thing is that song now, I've remixed it, and my grandkids love it. Right.
So your son keeps you relevant, your grandchildren make you feel relevant. They're all doing reasonably well for themselves, despite the fact that sometimes they were in the studio in a sleeping bag. It's good life experience for them. So they've been fine. You're described as fiercely independent. What would you say about that?
Yes, bordering on stubborn and stupid, to be honest.
But you'd agree with that?
I would.
Sylvia, you spoke earlier fondly about your dad. I know that at some point you took your dad back to Nigeria.
2009.
2009.
Yeah, amazing man. I love him. He's a bit like Mitcha, you know. He's got his faculties, right? He was always speaking good about people. Always had, you know, like when he came into a room, he was giggly and bubbly and made you feel good, you know. And my dad was like that. My dad was very much like that, and I miss him. But Mitchie fills that gap.
Nice.
Because we
So
have a
you
good
spent time in a couple of years in Nigeria.
Oh
right?
yeah, I live in Nigeria. I only came back because my mother is gone into Alzheimer's after her husband was sick, and I came back because he was sick and she was sick. My brothers had told me that, well, they were worried because they thought that she had cancer because she'd lost so much weight. And my mother was a big woman. She'd got a little frame, and we were like, whoa. Anyway, it turns out she had some kind of, I don't know what they call them things, parasite.
Okay.
Right? And my stepfather, he had already had amputation through diabetes. So after a while, he had Alzheimer's, and he started getting strokes in his head. And then he died in my arms, actually. Yeah, that was deep. But since then, my mother's just become worse with her. She's now got Alzheimer's, right?
Does your music help you to kind of get through things and scenarios how does your music help you with situations?
It does when
like
I'm
that?
writing a song and I want to get something across. Like one of the songs I've got out called Wake Up, right? This is not on the Audience with Sylvia Tella album. This is a song that I was waiting for my CDs to come in from overseas, because unfortunately through this pandemic, every business that I actually used to be able to work with have closed down, or they're not opened, or they've lost their business, right? So it's a sad time, and I experienced a lot of rubbish while I was down here waiting for my music. You know, all these road works, everywhere you were going, you could never get on time, and it just felt like we were being watched in everything we did, and it just bothered me. And then they started bringing out all this trace and contact, and I already knew about this cashless society that they were planning and this new world order crap. So the conspiracy theories, which people would say, was coming to life daily for us, all of us, and we could see it, you know. And it just made me have to write a song that was bothering me about what was going on, and that was Wake Up. And with Wake Up now, it's about everything that's going on. So people can't say, oh, I can't relate to that. People can relate
it's
to
relevant.
it. Right, and that's the same way with love. You go through a pain, a heartache, you lose a partner, you lose a child. You know, all the words are relevant to everyone, but we don't listen to each other. And now we're starting to listen to each other. So I love when people say, oh, you know, your music, your lyrics.
It means something.
It means something, because I just write what I feel. I didn't see myself as a songwriter until people tell me how that touched them, or how that they were. I had one girl tell me that she wanted to commit suicide because she'd lost 2 sons, and she said she was listening to a tune of mine, and I can't even. I think it was. It's on the Tella, like it. Hold on, just keep the faith.
Oh, and that kept her going.
Yeah, I was shocked.
That's really powerful. Despite the fact that you are, and you accept that you are fiercely independent, tell us about your long-standing friendship with Sonia Caesar.
Yeah, that is my partner, mate. When it comes to someone who believes in you, who supports you, right, and has always been there for you, yeah, Sonia. We're best friends and godmother to each other's children, but she's managed to put me out there in terms of a better light when it comes to the presentation, because when you see me, that's how I am, right? But she makes me out to sound bigger than I am, the way she words her words.
So she's your friend, your manager, your children's godmother, and vice versa.
Yeah.
In 2017, quite a tragic situation happened.
Yeah,
for
that
you.
was my godson. Yeah, Kamari, an amazing young man, amazing. I mean, I just think that God had to take him now, because I don't know, God's ways is not our ways, we could never comprehend, but he had such, how can I put it? He could sit and talk with you as an elder. He was only a young boy, like 14, well 15 when he was tragically killed outside school. He just finished school and he was waiting for the bus. Some boy came with a balaclava, chased him around with a knife. He's shouting to people, this guy's trying to kill me. This guy actually did kill him. He stabbed him a few times and he died on the way to hospital. Well, they tried to save him in the hospital, but he bled a lot and also his little heart.
That rocks the nation, and
that rocks everybody. I gave up singing for a while because I was just broken. Because he's not in no gang. He's not a street boy. He was
a
just,
baby.
No, but I'm talking about even his character. You know, unfortunately, we have our young men that do put themselves in harm's way and danger. Right, and when you hear about it, I'm not saying that you're supposed to go, oh well, he was with a gang, oh yeah, well he smoked this or he did that. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that those things can happen in those situations. But he wasn't a part of those situations. He was a little actor. He was a music talent. I mean, that was one of the reasons why I recorded Dancing in the Sky.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, why did you tell us about that song?
Well, that song, right, actually didn't come from him. It came from my dad, which was 2 years previously, because he died in 2017, Kamari. My dad died in 2015. My stepfather died in 2013, so it was just like
So
two. Yeah, and my daughter, I just got over my daughter being sent home to die, right, from 2013, right, and she's alive and doing fantastic and helping other people. So I knew that my God, he's real and he doesn't send nothing out void, and my faith was increased. So this was like a shock to the system, because it was all that was good was taken.
Sure.
Right? And when I recorded the song for my dad, how that happened was a friend of mine who lives in Manchester. I usually visit her and chill with her, Maggie. And she just lost her sister-in-law, her brother's wife, and they were close. And she had this song that she was playing from YouTube by these students, right? And it was like a kind of a folky song. But she was playing it and I just fell in love with that song. And she said to me, the reason why she played it to me, because she thinks that I should sing this in reggae, right? But to me, it was just healing me of the pain of my father, because I'd lost my father at the same time. And so I was just listening to the song. Once again, never wrote that one, but always people see.
But you dedicated that song to Kamari.
Kamari, because when I recorded it for my dad, I was busy touring, I was busy doing other things, and I just decided, I'll put it out on an album. So I was working on an album at that time called Storyteller, and ran out of money because I do my own stuff, right? So I ended up putting out an EP called TikTok at that time. So I left that all in the cans. And then 2 years later, this thing happened to Kamari, and I'd been recording Kamari as my little protege. So he wrote this song about, because I was doing a workshop in Manchester, and he comes and spends time with me, and I took him to these workshops, and I'd asked all the students to write a song about what they feel is going on in their lives or in their environment or whatever. They had the free will to write whatever they felt, and then we were going to create the song with the music. So that's what I was doing. And he wrote that one. And so I was like, not Dancing in the Sky, the track that's on the, I think it's called, I'm not sure. You'd have to look on my site.
Okay, I'll go on the site.
It's terrible. SylviaTella.com, plug. Right, anyway, he wrote that song in the workshop, and I was just amazed, because if you listen to the lyrics, it's all what's happened to him, right? He's talking about why should people be out there taking drugs and living this life, and then out of the blue, he dies like that. So I released his song on vinyl, because he was a real connoisseur. He loved vinyl. He used to go around to his dad's, right? And his dad's got like sound system DJ friends, and they would all play music records, and he would clash with the men then with his selection of music.
So I've heard.
Oh, he was amazing. And just his humility, and everybody loved him from my mother's age group. He took the time to engage with you. Doesn't matter how old you were. You could be a kid. his age or under his age, or an elder like Mitchie or my mother's age. It was amazing the way he had that gift, and everybody loved him. You see his funeral. That was strangers that he impacted that we didn't know about. You know, a lot of musicians. I remember Reggae Sauce.
Levi
Roots, right? We were doing his visual for something, and he met Kamari, and he said to me, "I'd like him to play me in a video because he's got such character and everything." You know, all those things. You just had this energy about him. It was like an old soul that had been here before. So that song was fitting for him.
Absolutely fantastic. Listen, we are coming to the end of our show already.
Hey, I could talk for England. You make me feel so
guess
comfortable.
What? Just before we go, though, a couple of things. Any highlights?
Well, at the moment, I'm working on a new avatar, Hush Hush. I'm really happy about it. It's a remix for Move With The Times, funny enough. As I said, I've got my new album, Audience Out, with Sylvia Tella. And I've also got an album which came about. I recorded it for myself, right, which is Sylvia Tella Live. And the reason I recorded it for myself is because it's live at Bellevue. And Bellevue has a lot of memories for me with my parents. We used to go there as a family and to the zoo and to all that. That's what it used to be, like a big leisure thing. And then as I got older, when I was like 15 and 16, we used to go to what we call the Bellevue Boppers, which was like a discotheque for young teenagers. So it had real significance, and there I was working with my musicians and working for Windrush, which is an organisation which I help with mental health, doing workshops, and we were putting on a dinner and dance, and I was the act for the night, and I didn't realise that it was such a fantastic event, and it went down so well, and the sound quality was really good that after we recorded it for myself, I said, I've got to put this out. So 50% of the proceeds goes to the mental health, you know, Windrush. So I'm really chuffed about everything I've done of late, because I feel as if I'm doing me and the people are receiving it with, you know, with such joy about the things that I'm hearing back, and they're saying to me, boy, I really love this tune. And sometimes when I'm playing them a couple of the tracks off the album, they go, is this one on the album as well? Because the album is very different. I've not just got reggae, I've got rare groove, soul, because it's telling the story.
Because you actually cover a wide genre of music.
Well, I did when I was young. I was like the token, what we call the token black girl, who does all the backing vocals for all the major players. And I worked and had hits with groups like Blow Monkeys, Pot Will Eat Itself, and so forth, right? But I also had songs that I used to sing that I thought, I need to tell this story of my soul music, pop music, the stuff that I write, the stuff that, you know, are telling the journey of my journey. So that's what the audience with Sylvia Tella is. So if everybody, all the people who always tune in to Patricia at Blaze, right?
Fantastic. We'll talk about that album,
you definitely
for sure.
need to tune in.
If you could do a song with somebody tomorrow, who would that be?
One of my son's artists, I think, because I'd like to sing with somebody younger. If I had a choice and a record company said, you know, what artists would you like to sing with? That means they're paying the big major artists.
Just anybody who would that be?
It would be Burna Boy. There you go. You know?
Listen, Sylvia, you've agreed to sing us out. My absolute favourite is still Spell.
Trouble sleeping, dreaming of you. Something strange is happening. I just can't get myself together. No kind of way for you. You must have put a spell on my mind. Memories. Lloyd Charmers.
Listen, we're going to give you the opportunity to make your way to the microphone.
So what I'm going to do is probably Special Way. That was another track that really put me on the map up the north and in London, because it's local musicians, Longsy D and myself and Pinky, and you know, it was like one of the tracks where everybody goes, yeah man, that's the tune, you know.
Okay, so we're having Special Way. Well, thank you for the bit of Spell. That was fabulous anyway.
Dear.
Listen, Sylvia Tella, singer, songwriter, you have been absolutely fabulous. Thank
you. It's been
you
amazing
for being
to be
a guest
here
on Patricia Talks.
Sylvia Tella said, tune in to Patricia Talks. Yeah, this is Sylvia Tella, and I'm singing this song for you. It's called In a Special Way. Yes, he does. He knows what I feel inside. So each and every day, I will always love him in a special way. In a special way. Yeah. Yes. Well, here I am, live on the Patricia Show, feeling really good, don't you know? On the blaze, fire. Said I found my baby, yeah, yeah. He is so fine, sweet like candy, and he blows my mind, yeah, yeah. He's everything I wanted, yes he is. My money's so appealing to me, 'cause my baby gives me that loving in a special way. In a special way. Hey. In a special way. He's so special.